Hi, I'm Christy and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm here with my June mid-month wrap-up. So today's June 13th and I had some time and was available to film, so I decided to jump in and do my mid-month wrap-up today. And yeah, so we're gonna jump into it because I have read 28 books so far for the month. So I'm going to quickly run down all of the books that I have read so far, let you know about them. As always, though, if you ever want to see more of my thoughts or my full reviews on any of the books that I read, I do review every book that I read, and you can see that in my Goodreads, which is always linked in the description of all of my videos, which I believe is in the bottom of all of this. So June has had a bunch of new releases and then just reads that I have been wanting to get to, so I definitely made those a priority this month because I know next week or the week after I'm filming this, I'm going to be gone at Book Bonanza, the book signing in Texas. And that whole extended weekend that I'll be gone, I obviously will not probably be reading unless I'm on the plane. So yeah, I know I wanted to get in a bunch of reads while I could. So we'll just jump into the read. So first up is Bittersweet Heart by Helena Hunting. This is the second book in her series that came after Little Lies, which was my last read of May, which I absolutely loved. And so I just rolled right into this one, kicking off June. And this one I ended up giving 4 stars to. This whole series, so far at least, has been a contemporary college, hockey, that type of setup. And so in this one, the hero is a hockey player, and then it has a forbidden romance with his professor. And so we have an older heroine, younger hero for the age gap in this one. So this series has been fun as well because it's kind of like a spin-off from a couple of Helena Hunting series. So this one in particular, the hero, he is the child of the couple of Pucked. So that's fun to see. The hero has kind of grown up always in his father's hockey legend shadow, and he's kind of deciding what he wants to do after college. He likes hockey, but he's not sure if he wants to make a career out of that, his family is assuming, and his coaches and all of that. So he's kind of on the brink of discovering what he wants to do next. And then at the beginning of the story, he's out at this lake house and he sees a woman out floating asleep on the lake. She's floating on a floating device, not just floating in the water. So they end up hitting it off and they share the entire day together, and then of course a steamy night as well. And then it's later on when he realizes that this mystery woman that he shared this night with is actually his new college professor. So this one does have age gap, like I mentioned. The heroine is the one who's older. She's 29, he's 21. He's in college. It's obviously forbidden because, the whole professor and student aspect. So just like the first book in the series, this one also deals with a lot of mental health, anxiety, and therapy rep, which I liked to see. So the hero in this one does have some repressed trauma from his childhood and feels responsible because his sister in the past, when she was 6 years old, she got kidnapped at a carnival. It was just for the day, she was found, everything was fine, but definitely dealt with a lot of feeling responsible and just having trauma over that whole incident. That does play a part in this story. The heroine as well, she has a manipulative, abusive ex who kind of starts stalking her. So we have that situation as well. I think this one was solid. Like I said, I gave it 4 stars. The couple in here wasn't my absolute favorite. I loved book 1 more. But yeah, this is a solid series and I can't wait for the 3rd book later this summer. Next up, I read The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. I had read Yours Truly, the recent book from this author, last month. Really loved that. And I was I need to go dive back into her backlist because I haven't read her 3 original books. So I'm on a mission to do that this month. And so the first one up is The Friend Zone, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. So this one I was not mentally prepared for how much it was going to hurt. I feel I had heard friends' reviews or friends talking about it years ago, but I was just kind of in my periphery. I never really paid attention too much because it wasn't on my TBR or anything like that. And so I knew there was some rumblings about this book, but I wasn't sure exactly what it was until I read it. So yeah, I just enjoyed the ride for this one. I can totally see the polarizing reviews for this one. I can see why people hate this book. I just it hit at the right time. I grabbed the audiobook. I just enjoyed it. I was immersed in the book completely. I finished it in a night in one sitting. I hit play on the Libby app and then just let it go through before the night was up. And I just really loved it. It really hit right for me at the right time. So I definitely think that books are going to make a difference. When you read them, obviously, or when you pick them up, they'll hit differently. And on a different day, I might have totally felt the way that other people feel about this book because I can totally see those feelings that they have, but I don't know, it just hit so right for me this night and I gave it 4 stars. That was super vague, but this book basically deals with a friends to lovers setup and then infertility as well. So we see the hero and the heroine meet at the beginning of the story. They get into a little fender bender at the grocery store parking lot. They don't hit it off very well. And then a little bit later on, they meet again because their friends are hey, our upcoming wedding, you two are going to be walking together you're our best friends. So they find out that they're going to be in each other's lives more than they thought. Hero's a fireman and he's new to the city. And then the heroine, she makes like little dog furniture, like furniture for little dogs only. So she's in need of a new carpenter because hers like recently quit for the furniture that she makes. And her friends are like, well, hey, like this new guy, like he does that. Like he's into carpentry. Like maybe he can help you out. So at first she's like, no. And he's like, no, like he doesn't want to deal with her. But then he finds out like how much she's making and how much she'd pay him. And he's like, yeah, like I'm in. So they definitely become fast friends while working together. Like he comes over to her house a lot and has to use her garage shop. And so he's just around her all the time and they both start to kind of have feelings for one another. But like the only problem is that the heroine has a long-term boyfriend who is out of town. So yeah, there's definitely angst in this one. Like I mentioned, she has a boyfriend who's out of town and who's going to possibly move in with her when he gets back. And then the heroine is also dealing or kind of contemplating getting a hysterectomy, dealing with her infertility issues and just kind of things like that. Like she doesn't want to tie down a man to her, so to speak, because she doesn't think she'll be able to have children later on in life. So she's kind of contemplating all of that. Kind of keeps the hero like pushed away, but also like feeling him as well. So yeah, definitely emotional, definitely angsty. And yeah, it took like a huge emotional twist that I wasn't expecting in regards to something else in the story, which if you've read it, you know what I mean, but I don't want to ruin it for people who haven't. So yeah, the heroine, she definitely has that not like other girls vibe. The hero is just like so sweet and perfect for her. On a different day, they might have annoyed me, but like on the day that I picked it up this night, I just loved it and got wrapped up in the story. So yeah, take that for what it is. If you need content warning though, definitely check it out for this one. But yeah, I gave it 4 stars. Next, I read The Devil You Know by Veronica. I had read a couple of this author's hockey romances last month, and I really enjoyed them, so I decided to pick up more of her books. This one, though, is not a hockey romance, but it has brother's best friend, which I love that trope and eat it up. It also has fake dating, and then, of course, lessons, which lead to more. So yeah, I thought this one was okay. It was cute, and I gave it 3 stars. So in this one, the heroine, it's the summer after high school and she's graduated, she's about to go to college. And so it's just that like summer before, and she's definitely a list maker, like makes lists for everything. And she also has a list for, she wants to lose her virginity before she goes to college so that she can like fully experience college when she gets there. So she decides that her brother's best friend, the hero, is going to be the perfect person to like check that off of her list with her. So I did like how the heroine is just like super confident and determined to convince the hero to do this with her. Like he's her neighbor and she decides she wants him to be her like sexual tutor, so to speak, like give her lessons and make sure she knows all of the things before she's ready for college. The hero tries to keep his distance from her at first because in the past, her brother had warned the hero, like, don't mess with my sister, like, don't get involved with her, all of those things. And so he tries to push her away at first, but eventually gives in. And then they get caught kissing by her brother and she panics and tells him that they're, like, secretly dating. So then it turns into this whole, like, fake dating thing because the hero also, like, has a TikTok account and he realizes that followers and, like, people are loving, like, seeing him be this, like, good boyfriend and doing all those, like, boyfriend trend things that are super popular. So he decides to, you know, fake date her while also doing the like lessons with her and all of these things. I thought this one was okay. Like it had its fun moments, but it did go on a little too long. Like I felt like if this was a novella, maybe cut out the fake dating part because like it was obvious they were already into one another and like they already had the other tropes going on. Like I think it would have been perfect like that. So yeah, that's why I gave it 3 stars. Next, I read Into the Tide by Laura Pavlov, which is the first book in her Cottonwood Cove series. I always want to say Cottonwood Creek for some reason, but it is Cottonwood Cove. So I absolutely love this one. I gave it 4.5/5 stars. This one I had only read the author's Honey Mountain series in the past. I read the first book in that, and I thought it was okay last year. I never really continued on though, but I decided to give this series a try because I knew a bunch of friends had reading and loving it recently. So I'm like, let me jump in and find out what's going on. So I'm so glad I did because I loved these even more. I can definitely see the author's growth just from those 2 series. And it also kind of makes me want to go back and read the rest of the Honey Mountain series because I've heard those do get better and have some fun tropes later on as well. But back to Into the Tide. So I gave this one 4.5/5 stars. It's a small town romance. It's the first in a new series. It has brother's best friend, which I, just mentioned earlier. That's one of my favorite tropes. So I was all in for this one. So in this one, the heroine is back home for the summer from college after graduating, and she decides she's going to help out her brother's best friend, the hero, with his restaurant. So actually super similar to the last book, the heroine makes a list of things she wants to like accomplish or do for the summer that she's home from college. And one of those is losing her virginity. And she decides that the hero is the perfect person to help her out. This one, I just loved the history between the hero and the heroine. They have nicknames for one another. Their passion was so good. I love the steam in here. I love the heroine's relationship with her brother. It was so sweet. Like, they had lost their mother when they were younger, and their father was an alcoholic, or like still is. So the heroine's brother like stepped up and became like a role model or parent figure to her growing up. So they have like a super close bond. So similar though to the Honey Mountain series, like this author definitely does lower angst, which I mean, I love some angst, but this one is low angst. Everything like works out super well and perfect for everybody. Like, I don't know, I just got wrapped up in this couple and their chemistry. Like, I didn't mind all of those facts as much. So yeah, if you love small town and you do like more low angst, this author and this series in particular are a great time. So next I read Under the Stars by Laura Pavlov, which is the second book in her Cottonwood Cove series. So this one again is a small town romance, and this one we have Grumpy Sunshine, we have a billionaire hero, and we have a workplace romance. And this one I gave 4 stars. So the hero in this one is from a wealthy family, and he recently moved to the small town to take on his family's publishing business and run it from there. And so the heroine actually ends up getting hired on as his new assistant. This one I just loved how the heroine is like just a super sunshiny personality, and eventually the hero that starts to like grow on him, which I loved. I loved in this one too how like they're working in the publishing industry and the heroine loves romances and loves books, and so she kind of like steps it up and helps him at work, and like he's always just amazed and awed by like her helping out with all of that. This one again, we get some cute fun nicknames. We get a bunch of the heroine's family, like they all show up, and I loved how they were a part of the story as well. This is just one of those romance series where it delivers on the chemistry and it's like believable as well, and it's just like a fun low angst time. I did love the first book in the series more, but this one was just like a great time too, and I gave it 4 stars. Next, I read The Player You Need by Veronica Eden. So this is a novella that is part of the Devil You Know, the book that I read earlier. This one follows a couple that we met in that book, so I decided to give this one a try. It comes free with like, I think the author's newsletter or on their website, something like that. This one's a novella. It is best friend's brother. It has fake dating, or like being a fake date at a wedding. And then it is frenemies to lovers as well. So like I mentioned, we met both of these characters in The Devil You Know. So the heroine of that book, this book is now her brother's story and then her best friends. So the hero and the heroine have kind of had this like frenemies situation all along, where they kind of like get on each other's nerves and kind of hate one another, but also like secretly are both crushing on one another. And so at the beginning of the story, the heroine needs a fake date to her cousin's wedding because her family's like giving her a hard time. And so she decides like, I should just use like a fake date. And her best friend is like, well, why don't you take my brother? Like, he already knows you. You don't want to go with a stranger. Like, this would work perfect. So it kind of snowballs from there. So this was just like short and sweet and cute. It has a little bit of forced proximity with like a camping trip they go on with like the wedding party. It of course has that fake date at the wedding. This one I wasn't like super invested in since it is like super short and a novella, but it's fun for like an addition if you've read The Devil You Know. So this one I gave 3 stars. So next up, I read Good as Gold by Serena Bowen. This is the first book in her new series, which is the Guilt Maker series. This one does exist in her True North series. It's kind of like a spin-off. We see a bunch of characters from that show up in this one. And yeah, it came out at the beginning of June and I gave it 4 stars. This one, like I mentioned, it does exist in the same world as her True North series. So if you've read those and loved like the characters and the setting and all of that, you're going to enjoy this one as well. And like seeing all of these like familiar places and faces. This one is small town, it is friends to lovers, and it has the heroine asking the hero for help with having a baby. So in this one, the hero and the heroine and one of their friends all grew up kind of in Vermont, and they would snowboard together and hung out a ton as teenagers. And so it was like 2 guy friends and then the heroine. And so the 2 guy friends, which one of them is the hero, his other friend kind of like saw the hero being interested in the heroine back when they were teens. And so he made this like pact with him, was like, hey, neither of us can like get with her. You know, it would like ruin our whole friendship. Like none of us, like, let's make a pact, like we can't ever date her. So the hero had agreed back then. And then some things come up later on and he ends up moving away. And then while he's gone, the other guy that he made the pact with and the heroine ended up dating. They ended up getting married, like all of these things. And so, yeah, so it kind of like broke up the friendship without the heroine knowing it. See flashbacks of when they were teens, but the main story takes place 20 years later, and the hero has finally come back home to Vermont for the first time in like 14 or 15 years, and now he's around the heroine again, and he finds out that her and their other friend ended up getting divorced, and she is like back on the market, and she is ready to have a baby, and asks him like during a drunken night if he would help her with that. So yeah, this one was just a fun time. It has great mutual pining. The hero is also dealing with some things from, he like moved away to Colorado. He owned this like adventure sports kind of business with his best friend there. and his best friend ended up passing away in an accident on the slopes, and the hero was like filming it for their marketing, and so like he witnessed and was filming the event when his best friend died, so he's dealing with kind of the trauma from that. And now he's back home in Vermont with like all of his family and of course his friends and the heroine there, and so yeah, it goes from there. So just know this story focuses heavily on pregnancy and following the heroine's fertility journey and all of those things. She's also like 35, and so she's dealing with also the possibility of getting pregnant at an older age and just like all of those things going on. I did really love the chemistry though between the couple. I just wanted him to get the girl already. But I think it was a great start to the new series, and I'm excited for possibly the setup of the heroine's brother for the next book. So we will see. I gave it 4 stars. Next up, I read Crimson River by Daphne Perry. This is the 5th book in the Eden series, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. So this book, it actually comes out mid-June, but the audiobook ended up dropping like the very first weekend of June, so like a couple weeks beforehand. So I ended up grabbing the audio and just jumping into it. I knew before going in, the author mentioned that this one was definitely more romantic suspense, similar to Indigo Ridge, which is the first book in the series, which I really loved that first book, so I was excited for like more romantic suspense vibes from her. And this whole series, we've been following the Eden's family. Each sibling is getting their book. Their parents even had like a little prequel novella as well. They live in Montana, and this one, the heroine owns a coffee shop, and one day she's just been like overworking herself, and so her sister's like, hey, like when's the last time you took a break? Like why don't you go take a hike, like literally, because the heroine hikes, like go take a hike, get out of here for the day, like just relax and enjoy some time off. So she goes on a hike and she stops at a stream to like fill up her water bottle. And when she does that, she notices like blood trickling down the stream. And so she looks up a little further from where the water's flowing, and she sees this like hunter, like this man who was like actually hunting like animals out there cleaning up. And like she's like, oh, like, you know, oh my god, I'm so sorry. And so then he ends up kind of rushing her and starts choking her, and so she panics and freaks out. Eventually the man does let go, and he like takes off into the woods, and so it kind of becomes this whole thing. So then we cut to the hero, and he lives, I think, in like Idaho or like somewhere else, and he ends up coming to Quincy, Montana, where the heroine lives, because he ends up hearing what happened to the heroine, and he knows that the like throat marks and it's like all these things is like this guy that he's been following and trying to track down for 4 years, like this murderer. So he ends up coming to their town to try to find this man. And so he finds the heroine right away because he notices like the marks on her neck. And so they start chatting, and he's like, well, hey, can you help me out? Like kind of, you know, relay the facts to me. Tell me what happened. Like show me where you were. And so they start like working together. And at the same time, they're also like starting to feel one another out. And they decide to give in to this like no strings attached type of setup, like just while he's in town, which of course, I mean, we know that's not going to work out. It's going to lead to more. So yeah, the romance was good in here. It's super steamy, but I actually really enjoyed the romantic suspense elements more so in this story. Like that's what I was really hooked on, and like trying to figure out what was going to happen, and like this whole like tracking down this murderer situation. Like I was just invested in that. So yeah, I give this one 4 stars, and it's another great book to the Eden series. Next, I read The Unwanted Marriage by Katerina Mora. This is the 3rd and her newest release in the Windsors series, which I've been binging. And this is like my new favorite from this author. It's definitely my favorite in this series, and I give it 5 stars. So in this one, the Windsor family is the family we've been following, and they're wealthy, and they always have arranged marriages. Like their grandmother just sets up marriages for them. They all already know what's happening, and so like that's just like a known thing with this family. So when the hero has known he's going to be like in this arranged marriage eventually with the heroine for like his whole life. Like I think he found out when he was a teenager, like that their families set up this like betrothal, and so he just knew it's like coming. And so now the grandmother calls him in and is like, hey, now's the time for this like wedding to take place. Like this is happening. So the hero has kind of always never really given the heroine like a second thought. Like he just knows who she is and like that they'll eventually marry, but he never really put too much in it. But now that it's like actually happening, he starts to like pay attention to her. He also sees like she has kind of like a boyfriend or something, and so he's like hold on. Now he starts to get possessive and kind of starts to become all in with her, which I absolutely loved. Like the hero falls first. He falls so hard. He's like all in. He's so good. Like, ugh, I just love this hero like so much. So this one has like the arranged marriage, obviously, and then it's age gap as well. The hero is 10 years older than the heroine. The heroine is a concert pianist, and she has kind of been, her whole life has been molded to fit the hero's like likes and wants and needs, and like conversation starters for him. Like anything she was like trained in or taught was to be a great wife to him, like her whole life. Her home life is also horrible. Her father is abusive, and so she's definitely looking at this possible marriage as like an escape to what she's been living with. I just love this one so much. The chemistry, so good. I loved how protective and caring the hero was. The hero definitely has some like trauma or ghosts from his past of feeling responsible for his mother's death. Like both of their moms actually died in the same plane crash. They were best friends. So yeah, there's kind of that going on as well with the hero, but I loved how everything played out, and I just love this one so much. Like if you love seeing a hero fall first and be protective and caring and like going so hard for her, like Dion in this one, it definitely does that. So next I just rolled into another 5-star read, which was Love Me Today by A.L. Jackson. So this one had just dropped in May, and I had seen so many friends loving it. I saw it all over Instagram, so I decided to give it a try. This was my third book, I think, that I tried from this author, which honestly before I almost wrote her off. I wasn't sure if her books were for me, but like I always try again with authors, and I'm so glad I did because I loved this one so much. This one is a small town. It's a single parent. The hero ends up becoming the guardian or legal guardian of his niece. So he's like a single dad to her. It has the heroine. She first starts working as like the horse trainer or like teaching his niece how to ride horses and care for them. But eventually she becomes the nanny. And then we have a tortured, broken hero as well, which I love me some tortured, broken heroes. So in this one, the hero and the heroine, they get into a fender bender and they end up arguing about like who was responsible for it and who was at fault or if it was an accident, and they go their separate ways. And then they run into one another again when the heroine shows up for her new job of like being this horse kind of caretaker or teacher at this ranch, and she finds out that the hero is the new owner of said ranch and like he is her new boss. I just love this one so much. Like I mentioned, the hero is a tortured, broken hero. He's one of those heroes who like doesn't think he's capable of loving. He doesn't think he's capable of caring for his niece that he's now the parent of. He has some repressed trauma and things from the relationship that he had with his sister, who was the mother of his niece. Just like so much going on with him, which I just like love seeing that play out. I loved how the heroine becomes so close with his niece. Like their relationship was so cute. And I just like could not get enough of this book. And then the niece as well that the hero is like the parent of now. She is so sweet and cute. She's like shy and kind of quiet. And I liked seeing her open up throughout the story. Like this was definitely the case of where there's a good example of a child in a book, like in a romance, because like they're not just like there, you know, like they're actually an actual part of the story. And like the heroine has a close relationship with her and the hero starts to open up with her, and like, it was just like so good. Definitely like found family vibes. Loved it, ate it up. The audiobook's amazing. Definitely check it out. Next, I read Through His Eyes by Nikki Ash, and this one I ended up giving 4 stars to. So this was my first read by this author, and it definitely won't be my last. I definitely want to check out more of her books now. So this one has age gap with the heroine being older than the hero. The heroine is also a curvy single mom as well. This one does have content warning, which most of it takes place at the beginning of the story. The heroine was in an emotionally abusive marriage, which she does end up getting away from. Like her husband passes away, so she gets away from that. Her husband was also like verbally abusive to her and definitely body shamed her about her weight and her curves. The heroine deals with like self-doubt because of that. And so yeah, at the beginning of the story, the heroine is in this loveless, emotionally abusive marriage, and she just found out that she's pregnant, and she's super excited because she's always wanted to become a mom, but she's like, how am I going to tell like my husband, because I also kind of want to like leave him. And so it actually ends up working out. He ends up dying at the beginning of the story. And so we then cut to 5 years later, and the heroine has been raising her daughter on her own. She does have like her entire family around her though, which I love how active her family is in her and her daughter's life. It was so sweet. And her brother actually owns a tattoo shop, and so one day she meets the hero there. He's like Irish, he's tattooed, and he's like super into her and like super making it obvious as well, and just like hitting on her and trying to ask her out. And she's like, what? Like, I'm old enough to be your mom? Like, I feel like you're so much younger than me. Eventually, when she sees how determined he is to keep asking her out, and then how good he is with her daughter as well, she ends up going out with him, which of course she learns she's not old enough to be his mom. She's like 12 years older than him. But yeah, so this one is very fast paced. Things do move pretty quickly, but like I had a good time with it. I loved the chemistry between the hero and the heroine. I loved seeing his relationship with her daughter. It was so cute. I mentioned the heroine definitely struggles with her body weight and like self-doubt about her image and all of that. And so the hero is definitely out to prove that she's like perfect. And yeah, I just like really enjoyed this one. Can't wait to read more from this author in the future. Next, I read For Her Consideration by Amy Spalding, and I ended up giving this one a 3.5/4 stars. So this one is a new contemporary sapphic romance, and I had a great time with this one. This one has a celebrity, like one of the heroines is a new like TV star, the kind of like it girl of the moment, and then the other heroine is a TV screenwriter slash script writer, or she wants to become that, but she's working instead right now as like the person who handles celebrity emails. Like she'll respond back acting as if she is the celebrity to people. She works for a Hollywood talent agency, and she is the one responsible for dealing with like celebrities' personal emails and things like that, and like giving out the responses. So one day the other heroine, like that's one of her clients, calls her boss and is like, hey, I want to have a meeting with her because like I feel like she's not getting the true essence, or like the true like how I would be in emails, and so I want her to like get to know me, to like be able to answer the emails better. So it leads into a friendship, which leads into a romance, which is just like really sweet seeing it all play out. It just had like a very down to earth vibe. Like that's the only way I can think of to describe it. Like it just felt comforting and cozy, and I loved how like things just like naturally progressed with them. Their chemistry and their friendship, it just all felt supernatural. Not supernatural, one word, like supernatural, two words. So yeah, I think this one definitely straddles that line of like women's fiction and contemporary romance, because it definitely deals with one of the heroine in particular, like her life and her friends and her job. So there's all that going on as well, but it definitely does have a solid sapphic romance as well. So yeah, I give it 3.5 stars, and it was just like a solid read. So next I ended up binging the Him and Like Us series by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy. This is a hockey romance MM series that has been on my TBR for legit years. I don't know why I kept putting it off, but I finally decided to get to it this month. So first up is Him, and I gave this one a 4.5/5 stars. One, it follows the two heroes, Jamie and Wes. They played hockey together and they were really good friends, and friendship kind of fell apart when Wes started to have feelings for Jamie and kind of panicked. He acted on it for a bit and then kind of like panicked and pulled away, and they haven't talked in 4 years. Now they're in the same town playing hockey at the same time after 4 years of not seeing one another, and so they kind of have this like reconnection. I just loved all the hockey action in here. We also get to see the two heroes being coaches to like younger athletes and teaching them about hockey, which was fun. I loved how they just naturally fell back into their friendship, and the chemistry just felt so believable. Jamie in particular has things he's figuring out in this one, kind of like with his career and where he wants to go with that going forward. He's also, you know, realizing that he's bisexual. So, and then Wes as well is just kind of like pining for his friend this whole time. And so, it was just like so cute and adorable, and I loved it. The audiobooks in particular were amazing. We have Teddy Hamilton and Jacob Morgan, and loved it and ate it up. So I rolled into Us, which is the second book in the series, and this one I sadly gave 3/3.5 stars. This one, it deals with a lot more like trauma and puts our like lovable, adorable heroes through things, which I get. It's like realistic, but like I didn't want to see it. Like I just liked seeing them all cozy and cute in the first book, and I just wanted like them to be happy and like, you know, so yeah, so I had struggles with this book. Like I obviously figured like since we're following the same couple like in another book, there's obviously going to be trials for them. But like, I don't know, I was hoping to enjoy it more than I did, and I just had a hard time with it. They have to deal a lot with keeping the relationship a secret because nobody knows that either of them are gay or bisexual and all of that. And so, yeah, it was just kind of like hiding their relationship and just a bunch of other things that just felt really heavy. And yeah, I just wanted them to be like all cute and cozied up. So yeah, I gave this one 3.5 stars. Then I did read Epic, which is a novella part of the series after Him and Us. This takes place like a few years in the future. And this one I gave 4 stars to. And also when I was reading it, I realized I had read this years ago. It was in like a Christmas in the City anthology that a bunch of authors did. And so I had read it back then and really loved it. And I really loved it this time as well. This one's just a novella. It's super short. It's like 70, 75-ish pages. We get a lot of hockey time, and then we just get the like adorable cuteness that is Wes and Jamie together. Next, I finally got to Iced Out by C.E. Ricky. This has been on my TBR for a couple months now, and I was like, I'm definitely getting to it in June, and I did it. Finally got to it in June. And oh my god, I'm so glad I finally got to it. I gave this one a 5 stars. I loved it so much. This one is an MM hockey romance. Enemies to lovers. Ugh, like chef's kiss all around. The two heroes are rival hockey players in high school. One of them has like a reputation of being a hothead and getting into brawls and like fights. And then the other one is from a family of hockey legends. For their game, when they are in high school, they end up getting into a fight, like physical fist fight. And then we cut to 4 years later, and now they've been playing on the same team in college, and they still like hate one another. So one of the heroes in here is openly out, like with the team and with everybody else. And the other hero is having this whole like bisexual awakening and figuring out his feelings while he's kind of like feeling these things for his teammate that he hates. Yeah, they end up at this party together and they're kind of teasing and taunting one another and just like getting under one another's skin, and they make these like joking dares that one of the heroes takes seriously, and he does drop down on his knees, and they do some things in the bathroom. So the next day when they win their game, one of the heroes is like, hey, we need to like do this again because obviously it helped our team win. Like, we've been on this losing streak, but now I get on my knees for you and like all of a sudden we're winning. Like, we need to keep this up like secretly to help us win, obviously, because, you know, superstitions. So yeah, it starts off as, you know, let's just keep hooking up to ensure the team wins. And of course leads into more. This one was just so good. I loved the tension and the hate and all the emotions we get in here as well. The chemistry, so good. If you haven't read this one, I definitely recommend. 5 stars. This one actually, if I would have read this before I read the Him and Us trilogy, I would have loved this one more and I would have rated Him and Us less. So I'm glad I read them in the opposite order so I could appreciate him for what it is, because otherwise Iced Out like blew him out of the water. Like, yeah, so there's that. Okay, and as we know, I'm just like on a hockey romance kick forever. So next up I read Gravity by Tal Bauer. This is a hockey contemporary MM romance, and it was my first time reading anything from this author. And I actually ended up giving this one 3/3.5 stars. This one mostly takes place in Montreal. We have a bunch of like French Canadian characters throughout here, and so we get a lot of like French in the book as well. And the 2 heroes, they end up meeting at a Las Vegas all-star like weekend that they're playing together, and so they kind of hit it off. One of them was like the idol of the other hockey player his whole life, so he's like super excited to meet him. They become friends, they start like hanging out after hours and then playing on the ice together, and they just have this like great friendship off the ice and on the ice as well. Like, they play super well together. So yeah, it kind of goes from there. This one was just like super low angst, almost like syrupy sweetness of a romance, which is just not always my personal cup of tea. I can think of like plenty of friends who I would recommend this one to in a heartbeat though, and have them go read it, because it's definitely more character driven and just low angst and just like sweetness overload, which for me, I have to be in the mood for that. So I'm not sure if I'll pick up anything else from this author going forward, or like I might, but I'd have to be in the mood for it, if that makes sense. So yeah, there's that. So gave it 3/3.5 stars. Next, I read Yours to Take by Emily Silver. This is the first book in her Dixon Creek Ranch series. And this one I gave 3.5/4 stars. So this is a small town series, and the author was sending me the arc for the second book. And so with like how I am, I'm like, I'm going to need to read the first book first. And so thankfully they're on Kindle Unlimited. And so I grabbed it just because I like to know what's happening like in this series. So this one is a small town. The heroine works on her family's ranch, and then it has opposites attract as well. The hero is a city boy and the heroine is a country girl. So in this one, the hero is a Hollywood TV writer, and like his first show was like such a success, such a hit, and it's coming to an end. And so the producers and all of that, they like tell him they want another hit from him, and they want him to do like a family drama next. And so his boss tells him like he has 3 months to get it together, get it written, or he risks getting fired. So he ends up pulling up the Dixon Creek Ranch, like finds it online because it's like a resort you can go stay at, and he takes off to go be inspired. So this takes place in small town Idaho, and like I mentioned, the heroine's family owns the ranch and she works there as well. And so yeah, him and the heroine kind of meet his first day there, and it goes kind of from there. Like, they become friends really quickly, and she starts showing him like the country life to get inspired for his show. And so they kind of make a bargain out of it, because the first time that they're like alone together, she ends up telling him she's a virgin, she'd rather not be, she has like a whole list of things she wants to do. And then she's like, maybe you can help me out with that, and then I'll help you out like showing you around like country girl style. So yeah, it's low angst, small town romance, which again, I have to be in the mood for those low angst ones. And I don't really like the celebrity or like Hollywood type of setting in books. So there's that as well. So if you're not like me, you might totally enjoy this one more than I did. Yeah, this one's also on the shorter side. I think it's just under 300 pages. I really liked the heroines, though, the whole family and like the setting. So yeah, I did jump into the next book, which I did love more than this one. So next up, I had the arc of Yours to Hold by Emily Silver. This is the second book in the Dixon Creek Ranch, and this one I loved so much more. It had like all of my favorite tropes, and so I ended up giving it 4.5/5 stars. This one again is low angst. It's that small town ranch setting in Idaho. This one we have a single dad hero and a nanny romance. We have best friend's brother. We have grumpy sunshine. We have age gap, like all of the good things. So we saw the hero and his daughter in the first book in the series because his sister was the heroine of that one. And we also saw the heroine as well because she is the heroine of book 1's best friend / this hero's sister's best friend. So the heroine has had a crush on her best friend's brother for years, and that's the hero, of course, and then she ends up offering to help him out because he is just like overworked. He's one of those family members who like helps out everybody else and just like runs himself ragged, and he has his daughter to worry about as well, and so she ends up offering to be the nanny for the summer for them. So then we find out that the hero has been secretly into the heroine as well, but he tries to keep his distance because, like, you know, sister's best friend and all of that. And then, of course, he's just like this grumpy hero. I just adored this one. I thought the chemistry between the hero and the heroine was so good. The heroine is supposed to leave at the end of summer to go away for like this Seattle art job. And so like their whole, you know, like let's give in and have some fun is like on this time limit this whole time. And so we have that they're dealing with. The heroine's relationship with the hero's daughter was so cute. I loved the hero with his daughter as well. Like just so adorable, low angst, so charming, great tropes. Like loved it so much. Comes out on June 22nd. Next, I needed to like mix it up and change it up. So I went to a thriller. So I read The Girl in the Mirror by Rose Carlyle. And this one I ended up giving 3 stars to. This one was just very meh, very just like okay thriller to me. Like nothing good, nothing great, nothing memorable. Like it was just is what it is. So this one's just like super messy family dynamics. We have twin sisters. We have this whole like inheritance plot where the first sibling to like have a baby like gets all the inheritance. We have that whole thing going on. This like very like competition style family. There's the high seas. They're like on a yacht for a bit. Like it just felt very basic thriller and like kind of like predictable twists and like I don't know. It was just like it was easy to get through, but like it wasn't a great time. So yeah. All right, and then I ended up binging the rest of the Boys series by Macaulay Smelter. So there was an Audible sale recently, and I grabbed a bunch of audiobooks that were on sale super cheap. I read the first book in the series, and I've been meaning to get to books 2 through 5. So I ended up binging all of those. A college sports series. I say sports like lightly because there's not a whole ton of sports action, but like each of the heroes in it is a different sports player. Like we have a baseball hero, hockey, possibly basketball, and like maybe another baseball one in there. But like there's very lightly any sports action, but it is classified as like a sports college romance series. So book 2 is Nice Guys Don't Win, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. And this one we get forced proximity because the hero and the heroine are roommates, as well as a little bit forbidden because she is his basketball coach's daughter. So the hero of this one we saw actually in the first book in the series, and we saw him kind of get passed over, or like he was only the nice guy, like the friend, instead of like the hero of that story. So I was super looking forward to his story, and it did not disappoint. So at the beginning of the story, the hero is moving into his new apartment for the school year, and his friend Teddy is supposed to be his roommate, and at the last minute he ends up backing out. The hero is like, I have this like apartment that I need to rent out the rooms, like what's going on? So his friend Teddy's like, I'll find you a roommate, like it's no problem, no big deal, like I'll get somebody to cover the rent. So then we cut to the heroine, and she's like in the school office, which when Teddy shows up, he overhears her conversation of how she's like a last minute transfer and the college dorms like are all filled up and she has to be like on a wait list and all the things like that. So he's like, hey, like my friend needs a roommate, like let me go show you this great place, like also I'm not like a stalker weirdo, like just come with me. So yeah, the hero and the heroine meet and they become roommates, and they fall very easily into a friendship as well. And I also just love the relationship with Teddy as well, the guy who was supposed to be the roommate and then found her to be the roommate instead. Like his friendship with both of them was so fun, so adorable. Like I absolutely adored him. So yeah, this one's just like low angst, super cute, and just a fun time. The heroine, like at first they don't realize that she's the coach's daughter, and then once she pieces it together, she doesn't tell the hero at first. And when her dad finds out, like it's not a thing for him at all. So it's like barely forbidden because like, yeah, she's the coach's daughter, but like her dad's fine with it. Heroine as well has a complicated relationship with her father and her stepmother and her half siblings, and so she kind of deals with that throughout the story as well, but I liked seeing how it all played out. So yeah, this was a fun one, and I gave it 4 stars. So the third book in the series is Real Players Never Lose, and I ended up giving this one 3 stars. This one is actually Teddy's book, which I just talked about him in the previous book, how he was like the friend and super adorable. So I was really looking forward to this one, and sadly, like it just was really disappointing. So in this one, we have the hero being a baseball player as well as fake dating, with him asking the heroine to be his fake girlfriend. Like he'll even pay her college tuition for the year because he needs to prove to his father that he's like stepping up and being responsible, not being a playboy, and like not risk losing his inheritance. So at the beginning of the story, his dad's like tired of Teddy just like playing the field and being a playboy and like having this like kind of image around college. And so he's like, you need to take life seriously and all these things. So he tells him, like if you had a girlfriend. And so Teddy's like, oh, I have a girlfriend, like totally. So he ends up going to try to find a girlfriend, and he runs into the heroine, and he overhears that her college tuition has been pulled. And so he offers to pay the rest of the year for her if she will pretend to be his fake girlfriend. So I'm not sure what it was about this one, if it was the audiobook narrators or what, but I just didn't connect to either of these characters and definitely didn't connect with them as a couple. You definitely get more of Teddy's backstory in this one, and his father is definitely abusive, so definitely content warning for that. But yeah, 3 stars for this one, but it is what it is. On to the next one. So book 4 is Good Guys Don't Lie, and I gave this one 3.5/4 stars. In this one, we have a hockey hero, we have a heroine who has autism, and then we also have like a bit of a second chance-ish setup just because they've had like a previous hookup in the past and now they meet again. So this one starts off with the hero. He is at a bonfire, like at a party, and he ends up having like this great night with this great girl, and like he can't believe his luck, and so he definitely wants to like track her down afterwards, but like he can't find her. And for a whole year, like he has thought about her, he thinks she's like perfect, and he like can't wait to find her. So he can't believe his luck when he spots the heroine, who is the girl that he met, a year ago, and she is in need of a tutor. And so he steps in and is like, hey, like I'm your tutor, like let's get this going. And like she doesn't remember him, and so he thinks she does, and so it kind of goes from there. I loved how the hero was just like all in for her from the moment of seeing her, like definitely love at first sight type of situation. I love how they're both bookish. They talk about books that they both read. The hero's like kind of nerdy. He has like a Lego collection, and he loves Spider-Man. He has like Spider-Man sheets. So yeah, I just loved how like nerdy and bookish they both were. The heroine, like I mentioned, she has autism as well, and so she kind of struggles with fitting in with people or understanding like social cues and different social interactions, and so she definitely kind of deals with that of like figuring out where she fits in with her friendships. I did think this one was a bit too long, but I enjoyed it a lot more than the previous book in the series, so yeah, 3.5/4 stars. The 5th book in the boys series is Broken Boys Can't Love, and I ended up giving this one 3/3.5 stars. So this one we have a brother's best friend and a forced proximity because they end up becoming roommates. This one, the heroine has been a ballet dancer all of her life, but after college she's decided she doesn't want to like go after becoming a ballerina, and so she's kind of trying to figure out what she's going to do like with her career, with all of that. So she lives with the hero who is her brother's best friend, and her brother is the hero of the previous book, and so we have that like forced proximity, and her and the hero end up becoming friends. She even asks the hero for help with intimacy because she's a virgin, but she's like interested in somebody else, and she wants to make sure she like knows all the things. So this one I did feel like it dragged on just a little bit too long, kind of like the previous book in the series, but the whole series is like low angst, very, very light sports romance, college setting, like they're a fun time. I think books 1 and 2 are my favorite in the series, but they're all just like, they're just fun. Next, I picked up Some Sort of Love by Melanie Harlow. This is one of her backlist reads that I've been wanting to get to because of the tropes. And so this one I ended up giving it 3.5/4 stars. So I love Melanie Harlow books. I've read most of hers, and this one sounded really fun. So it's small town, single dad hero, and a second chance-ish, like after they hooked up in the past. So in this one, the heroine is at her sister's wedding when the story starts, and she is kind of over her family giving her a hard time and asking her about like, where's her date? Who's her date? Like all of these things all the time. So yeah, she's starting to feel a little bit lonely. Like all of her sisters have been getting married lately, and her friends are as well. She's 30, and she's like super successful with her career. Like she's a doctor. She's actually a pediatrician. So she feels super happy with the rest of her life, but like her dating and all of that type of life, like she's starting to feel a little lonely. So at the same time, at the wedding, she ends up running into the hero, who is somebody that she had a hookup with back in college, like over a decade ago. So her and the hero kind of hit it off from there, and they're both feeling like a certain way about one another. She loves that he's like bearded now. He's also like a single dad. So they decide like, hey, like we should hook up again. And so it kind of goes from there, and it's just like a really fun time. The hero in here, his son has autism, and so he definitely deals with kind of the dad guilt, I guess, so to speak, of like being there for his son, because his son definitely needs a routine and his schedule and things like that. So the hero feels bad like taking time for himself, and also like bringing the heroine into it, because he's like, this is a lot. I have to like sometimes just leave, like I can't be out and about all the time. So they kind of deal with all of that, and like the heroine is super patient and understanding, but at the same time she's like, I want to be put first as well. Like I totally understand about your son, and like I totally get it, but like I want somebody who wants me too. So they kind of deal with that. And yeah, it was just like a fun time. I felt like it kind of dragged towards the end, but the beginning, loved the steam, loved, like just a fun time. So yeah, 3.5/4 stars. Next up, I read His Study in Scandal by Megan Frampton. This is the second book in her recent series. This book just came out in the end of May, and so it is the series, I think, School for Scoundrels. So this one I sadly ended up giving 2.5/3 stars to. The first book in the series I had really enjoyed, and I really liked the premise of following these heroes who all kind of grew up in an orphanage together and kind of their stories from there. But sadly, this one just like didn't do it for me. That said, I absolutely love the green cover on here, her green dress, the clinch, like so good. This one actually kind of gave me vibes of Her Night with the Duke by Diana Quincy because of the setup. So in this one, the heroine is a dowager duchess. So she's the widow of a duke and she is 40 and she has decided, you know what, like why am I mourning for this man who never cared about me, never loved me? Like let's move on. And so she ends up literally cutting up all of her mourning clothes and she decides, you know what, instead I'm gonna go to this like pleasure garden and like have some fun because I've never like been given any pleasure in life. So she ends up going there, she meets the hero, they have a hot night. She is older than him, I think she's like 12 years older than him. And then the next day or like later on, they realize that he is the one who has been being pushed forward as the husband to be to her stepdaughter. So yeah, her stepson became the new duke, and he is, of course, in charge of his sister's, like, dowry and the possibility of her getting married and all of those things. And so he's been pushing the hero as the prospective husband-to-be to her, but instead the hero, like, only has eyes for the heroine. So yeah, we have that going on. I just thought this one kind of started to drag for me and I wasn't a fan of a lot of the choices that it made. But yeah, if you do love an older woman age gap, the heroine is 40, the hero's 28. It's a historical romance. Like it is pretty short, so there is that. This author in particular is just very like hit and miss for me. But I always come back just in case because like some of the hits have been good. So yeah, 2.5/3 stars. Next, I got an audio arc of On Thin Ice by Ellie Cotton. This is the second book in her Lakeshore U series, or like exists in the same world. This one I loved so much. I gave it 5 stars. I love this one even more than the first book in the series. So in this one, we have a grumpy, broody hero, and then the heroine is the estranged daughter of his coach, as well as the heroine has celiac as well, and so she deals with that throughout the story. So the hero in this one is definitely an alpha hole in the beginning of the story. Like he is definitely broody, he's definitely grumpy, and he misjudges the heroine right from the start. So the hero and the heroine, they're best friends, are the couple of the first book in the series. So now they're like always around one another. And so the hero, like he assumes that the heroine is just like another puck bunny, that she's only interested in hockey and sports to like try to land hockey players or get with as many hockey players as she can. So he's just like not interested in her. He comes off super rude to her and all of those things, but of course we find out that there's more to his story and he has like all the weight of the world on his shoulders, so he does have that going on. So yeah, the hero is one of those like grumpy heroes who can't stand anybody and gives everybody a hard time, and the only exceptions are his mom and his little brother who has autism, and then of course the heroine later on as well. But yeah, so we see the hero being super sweet with his mom and his brother who's like a preteen, and yeah, it was just so good. So at first the hero wanted nothing to do with the heroine, but over time they're like always around one another because their friends are dating. And then he sees her, she works at the place where his brother goes for like certain activities and things like that, and so she's helping out his brother knowing that that is his brother. And so yeah, I loved the heroine's relationship and bond with his brother. It was so sweet. And just like the found family, because like I mentioned, the heroine's father she's estranged from, he's definitely like problematic and struggles with some things that we find out throughout the story. So yeah, the hero's mom and brother like kind of become her little found family, and I just loved it so much. So good, so cute. I loved all the time that both of them spend with his brother. So good. Lots of great hockey time. And like I mentioned, the heroine has celiac as well, and so she deals with that throughout the story and kind of talks with the hero and his brother about like what that means for her and like the complications or struggles she faces with living with that. Like I mentioned, I did the audio, so the narrators are Teddy Hamilton and Stella Hunter. Definitely recommend, and I just loved it so much. So 5 stars, and it comes out on June 20th. So then lastly, I ended up reading Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. So yeah, in the past, I've always thought her books are okay. Like the first one I thought was okay. The second one I thought was a little bit better. And then I did like some of the novellas more so than her full-length books. But now this book, this new book, is definitely my favorite from her, and I gave it 5 stars. So Ali Hazelwood in this one, she blends academia and like she always does heroines in STEM, which I love to see it. Heroine in this one is a theoretical physicist as well as like a professor, and she's kind of dealing with the fact that she can't make ends meet. She doesn't have time for research, like as far as ends meet, like with money. So she has taken on this role or this little side job as being a fake date. And so one of her clients, like one of her favorite clients, is this guy who she fake dates with him and goes around his family, pretends she's a librarian, and like all of these things. And so there she meets the hero, who is her like favorite client's older grumpy brother. So then we cut to at work, she's up for this like new job, new position. She's trying to get like on a faculty position at a college, and she meets the hero there again. He is like the head of the department. And so at first he's like confused, like, why are you here? Like, you're my brother's girlfriend, like you're a librarian, like what are you doing at this science lab? So like it becomes this whole thing until he realizes like she's been fake dating his brother. She's not a librarian, like she's actually a scientist. So yeah, it's just like a fun setup that sounds super complicated, but like was a fun time. I just loved the blend of academia and kind of like the politics behind all that academia world, the science, the heroines in STEM. Like Ali Hazelwood does such a good job with writing these fun romances with academia. And the first two books and some of her novellas, I feel like definitely felt like a lot of the same. This one, I mean, it definitely has some of the same vibe as well, but it also felt different than the other ones. Like I loved the hero in this book. He is way more confident and outspoken. Like he lets the heroine knows exactly what he's feeling, which I loved to see in this one as well. Like the heroine, she, with her fake dating thing, like she's just used to being a people pleaser, and like she will fit whatever like person she needs to be to fit in, or like people please the people that she's around. And so he kind of calls her out on that a ton and is like, hey, like who are you authentically? Like be your authentic self. I want just you. Like I don't want you to, you know, just like fit in or blend in to like appease me. Like, so the heroine as well has type 1 diabetes, so we get the rep of that throughout the story. And yeah, this one was just like a fun time. It's funny, it's quirky. It's my favorite from this author so far. I gave it 5 stars. Those are the 28 books that I've read so far for the first half of June. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of the books that I read, or maybe what some of the books that you read for the first half of June have been. If you've had any favorites, let me know that. Can't wait to see what the rest of June brings. There's still some fun new releases coming out that I can't wait to get to, and just like some books on my TBR that I want to get to as well. So yeah, if you haven't done so yet, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, and I'll see you in my next one.